The last time we saw an interest rate fall, dust had barely settled at ground zero. John Howard was PM, and we were rocking to this. Hello, I'm Sandra Sully. Welcome to 10's Late News. In the doghouse, defending how Australia keeps war prisoners.
The people we're fighting behead people and blow up bombs in marketplaces.
First the hurricane, now the flood fears. New Orleans braces for another disaster.
Yeah, they call her real rock and roller.
Rock and roller?
Rock and roller.
No Richie rift. Business as usual for Madonna and her guy. Plus the world record charity race that ended head over high heels.
Hi, I'm McEwan in Sports Tonight. New Brisbane Lions coach, Michael Voss.
What I'm here to say is that I think I'm ready, and I'll let other people make those opinions as we go. But from my point of view, it's about getting the job done now.
We've been able to perform at a level, we've been competitive in AFL games, so that's the aim again Sunday.
Bad news for the Saints and anxious times for the Collingwood captain.
Medical staff will clear him, or won't clear him.
Why Manly will challenge the NRL judiciary. And Jess Shipper splits from long-time coach Ken Wood after he sold training programs to the Chinese.
It's the rate cut Australia had to have, and there could be more on the way. But as the banks line up to pass on a 0.25% reduction, new concerns have been raised about the state of the economy.
For mortgage holders who have never known an interest rate cut, finally there's some relief. The Reserve Bank has cut the cash rate by 25 basis points.
0.25% for us. It's on a monthly basis, probably doesn't even cover the cost of nappies.
But it's the first official rate cut in 7 years, and the good news was rushed into the hands of the Prime Minister during question time.
Mr Speaker, I can inform the Parliament that the Reserve Bank of Australia has just announced it will cut interest rates by 0.25%.
A family with a $200,000 loan can expect to save about $35 a month.
Speaker, for the average mortgage, today's interest rate cut will put nearly $600 each year back into the family budget.
This is certainly a decision that working families deserve.
The Big Four banks were quick to announce they would pass the rate cut on to customers in full within a matter of days. But St George Bank will wait until the end of the month. In its statement, the Reserve Bank tempered the news with a warning about the slowing conditions, saying it's looking more likely that household demand will remain subdued and overall economic growth slow over the period ahead. The opposition views the rate cut as a sign the economy is stalling.
Is this the slowdown we had to have?
It is good news that we're getting an interest rate cut, but the reasons that we're getting it with a slowing economy, rising unemployment and still high inflation is not good news.
Next few months will remain pretty soft, and the Reserve will cut rates again in November. And then through the first half of next year, I think we'll see another 2 or 3 interest rate cuts.
Murray McCloskey, 10 News.
The federal government has released photographs of what have been described as dog pens used to hold 4 suspected Taliban militants earlier this year. The Afghan prisoners were kept in the pens for about 15 hours while awaiting transport to a proper detention facility run by the Dutch at Tarin Quat in Afghanistan. The incident has offended cultural sensitivities.
In Afghanistan, they are not allowed in the living area. So when we put a prisoner with the dog, it considers an insult.
Let's keep this in perspective. The people we're fighting behead people and blow up bombs in marketplaces, killing small children.
The Army had earlier cleared Australian troops of accusations that they had mistreated the prisoners. Hundreds of Australians are home safe tonight after being caught up in deadly political violence in Thailand. They were left stranded as airports were shut down in turmoil.
The political upheaval in Thailand has escalated, prompting the country's Prime Minister to declare a state of emergency. The violence heightened last night after a week of protests and calls for the PM to resign. It's little wonder the 200 Australians who arrived home this morning were relieved.
Of course, we were concerned for our safety, and, you know, we'd had enough of our holiday. We wanted to go home.
The unrest saw 3 airports in southern Thailand closed, trapping tourists for 3 days.
I just couldn't believe that 100 people could shut an airport.
Probably wasn't the most relaxing 3 days of my life, no.
It was especially difficult for this couple who urgently needed to get home to family.
We wanted to get home because his dad died, so... And there was just no communication, there was nothing. Jetstar, they said, we've got your number, you know, we'll ring you, we'll message you, and we didn't get anything. We're left in the dark.
While passengers who travelled with Thai Airways will not be compensated for the extra cost, Jetstar will pay $150 per night for accommodation expenses. Add that to today's specially chartered flight, and the bill for Jetstar will exceed $500,000, an extended holiday for some.
Well, we would have loved to have stayed.
Josh Murphy, 10 News.
Attempts to get aid to flood-stricken regions of northern India are being hampered by a shortage of boats. About 3 million people are in need after the monsoon-swollen Kosi River broke its banks 2 weeks ago. About 500,000 are marooned without food, drinking water or medicines. Some are being helped in government and relief agency camps, but the number of people in those camps is expected to double in the coming days. It's feared the overcrowding will lead to a cholera outbreak. New Orleans has escaped the brunt of Hurricane Gustav, but the worst might not be over. Millions of evacuees have been told to hold off and stay away rather than go home because there are now fears of flooding.
Hurricane Gustav pushed New Orleans' levee system to the limit, the water spilling over the top of the same barriers that failed in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. This time they're holding for now.
This is probably not the most encouraging video. You can see how high the water is.
The hurricane slammed into the coast of Louisiana about 110 kilometres southwest of New Orleans with winds of up to 170 kilometres an hour. But as it moved inland, it lost power, sparing New Orleans the mother of all storms. The city's mayor has now dubbed Gustav the mother-in-law, or ugly sister, of all storms. The fierce gusts, however, did blow 2 ships and a barge off their moorings. But there were no reports of extensive flooding, just downed trees and power lines, which left more than 1 million people without electricity.
It's areas such as this that engineers will be watching very closely over the next couple of days. Until the water drops to below pre-storm levels, there's still a significant threat of flooding.
I don't want to say that we're out of it yet, but we're cautiously optimistic and we're breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief this afternoon.
Locals who decided to ride out the storm are taking the warnings in their stride.
I think that's a lot of talk, really. The levees have been rebuilt to a degree, but our pump system has been completely redone since Katrina.
Well, you got to take it as it lies. You know, if it floods, it floods. If it don't, it don't.
The 2 million people who evacuated the region are now waiting for a decision on when they can return.
John McCain's running mate has stolen the spotlight at the Republican presidential convention with a surprise announcement. Sarah Palin's unmarried teenage daughter is 5 months pregnant.
News that Governor Sarah Palin's teenage daughter is pregnant came in a written statement. Palin stating, "We're proud of Bristol's decision to have her baby and even prouder to become grandparents. Bristol and the young man she will marry are going to realize very quickly the difficulties of raising a child, which is why they will have the love and support of our entire family." John McCain knew about the unwed daughter's pregnancy when he selected Palin and considered it a private matter. But the campaign made the information public today to rebut speculation on the internet that Governor Palin's youngest child, 4-month-old Trig, was really her daughter's child. That, of course, would be physically impossible if that daughter is now 5 months pregnant. Barack Obama insisted such matters are none of the public's business.
People's families are off limits, and people's children are especially off limits. This shouldn't be part of our politics.
But political analysts say that is wishful thinking.
The fact is, people are interested, voters are interested in Sarah Palin. They don't know anything much about her at all. She's brand new to the national scene.
In fact, a new CBS News poll says 66% of voters don't know enough about Palin to voice an opinion, leaving her vulnerable to being defined by first impressions.
After much speculation and denials of a marriage breakup, Madonna has made a very public appearance with husband Guy Ritchie at the London premiere of his new movie, Rock and Roller.
Frankly, I don't care. I'll take compliments where I can get them.
Fans and critics are closely watching the new movie Rock and Roller as Ritchie had a series of flops following his wildly popular first two films, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. After the break, tributes after the death of a legendary Australian actor.
It's rolling its eyes at me. I think it's in love.
Then the prehistoric toy of the future.
The 2 deer.
The Christmas must-have that could blow the budget. You're watching 10's Late News. Pneumonia has claimed the life of legendary Australian actor, writer and director Michael Pate. The trailblazing actor appeared in more